Welcome to the Red Rose Film Club, a movie podcast that examines the wide world of cinema through a perpetually lefty, pinko commie, soy boy, cuck, Antifa, super soldier filter. But more specifically, we love movies and want to create a podcast that would appeal to the disparate tastes of our liberal, leftist, socialist, communist, Marxist, and Leninist friends. Red Rose Film Club is for leftists of all stripes who don't know what to talk about at parties other than movies and politics. Thank you so much for listening to our very first episode. This is Craig here from the editing room floor. Just saying we are still trying to take the training wheels off and learn how to podcast like pros, so this first episode has just a few minor audio issues. Mostly it just makes our voices sound a little auto-tuned when we start getting a little too fired up. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy episode 1 of the Red Rose Film Club podcast. Welcome to the Red Rose Film Club. My name is Craig. I work in public education and am passionate about social justice and workers' rights. My tastes range, but mostly exist on opposite ends of the highbrow and lowbrow spectrum.
Hey, I'm Hal. My name's Hal. I use she, they pronouns. I work in higher ed, and I run a food pantry. I care about food access, reproductive justice, building a robust social welfare state, and ending the state's domination through the criminal legal system. I'm a staunch defender of Lucas Suspiria, even over the original. And I like movies that prompt me to yell at the screen.
Okay, so starting a podcast, what do you want this podcast to be, I guess?
I want the podcast to be an outlet, an opportunity to talk about film and have conversations about politics I'm already having in my personal life, but hopefully connecting with a broader audience and maybe annoying some of my friends a little less.
Right, and that's a way better answer than mine, because mine is I just like to talk and hear myself, evidently. So this is just another outlet to do one of the things I'm passionate about, just talking and listening to myself. So before we get to the main film of this episode, I wanted to ask, what's something you've been watching lately?
So I do a 30 Days of Horror Movies challenge in October. And, of course, I spend weeks researching the list and fastidiously outlining themes. And then this weekend, I threw that all away and watched Final Destination 3 through 5 and then Bride of Chucky from 1998.
Okay, so Final Destination 3 through 5 is roller coaster.
Yarp.
Which one is the butthole in the pool? Because that
is the Final Destination,
that's
which
not
is
any
final.
Of them.
No, it is. It's Final Destination 4 is not called Final Destination 4. It's called the Final Destination. And then they made the 5th one 2 years later. Yeah.
Okay.
But the butthole exploding from
great.
like Chuck Palahniuk's Haunted is in the Final Destination.
Which is 4, we've said. What's the main disaster in 4?
Oh, it's the NASCAR race.
Oh, hell yeah. What's the main one in 5? See, 1 and 2 are committed in the very base of my brain. 3 movies. But 3, 4, and 5 I don't remember.
And I've seen them a gazillion times.
5.
Disaster. It's the bus. It's the bus. Sorry,
they're
on the
Golden Gate
retreat.
Bridge?
Yes, they're on a bridge.
Yeah.
And then it turns out, it winds back to the end. And he's getting on the plane to France.
Hell yeah. And isn't David Koechner the bus driver?
Oh, he's not the bus driver. He's the boss of the firm that is going on a retreat. Which is why they're on the bus.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I love those movies. I will defend even the shittiest of the Final Destination movies.
Me too. I cannot wait for the new one. I will be there.
When is it?
It's in pre-production right now.
Oh, okay.
It's not even close. Did you hear the news story where I can't remember who the dudes are, but they have some degree of, horror movie notoriety already. But they got the gig by faking death on the Zoom call. They engineered a situation via Zoom where it made it appear as if the fireplace behind them caught on fire and they were dying.
And that kind of resembles one of our Zoom trivias where Jacob almost burnt his house down. That was a friend of ours at the beginning of the pandemic. We were playing Zoom trivia, and a friend of ours accidentally lit their kitchen on fire and everyone else saw it first, which was the funniest part. Is
The
anyways,
panopticon of Zoom, right? But
um,
how about you? What have you been into?
what have also horror, but I'm not doing any 31 days of challenge, so I'm gonna be real off. But I saw Terrifier 2. Have you seen? Are you?
I have not. I have seen Terrifier. I have not seen the new
Yeah,
one.
it's disgusting. It's gross. It's really nasty. There was stay after the movie and see what the creators have to say type of thing, and it was just a podcast that they played after the credits. So it was kind of weird, but they did talk about how they were shooting it at the start of the pandemic, and then they went into lockdown when they were shooting this one specific scene, and Damien Leone, the director, was just like, well, we can't go anywhere, so let's just really dig in. And yeah, it shows. It's really gross, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I think something that I hope that we reflect on throughout the podcast as we build episodes. One of the reasons I'm a leftist, as I'm a structuralist, is seeing the ways in which the structure around us and our environment shapes
Right.
the
Yeah.
structures what is produced artistically. So
Yeah.
that's that falls nicely in line with it, even if it's not from a leftist perspective, right?
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah. And there's been several like really cool movies that I feel like came out of COVID of like weird shit. Like what was the one where they're all on a Zoom call that was like legit shot in lockdown? It was short. It was like 60 minutes, and it was like a haunted Zoom call, but it was dope as hell.
All Zoom calls are haunted.
Yeah, oh, Jesus, especially with
Yeah, you ever been on a Zoom call? Like I feel like I'm going to be. I don't know why I'm doing an Italian American, but we're doing Jerry Seinfeld. That's on Zoom.
Host. That's what it was called.
Yes.
Host.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
was
yeah.
cool. And also, Kimmy. Did you see Kimmy on HBO?
No, but that's the Soderbergh, like the surprise Soderbergh,
yeah.
right?
Which I don't know if they shot it in lockdown, but it's very much influenced by lockdown. Like Kimmy, the Zoe Kravitz character, plays this girl who is already agoraphobic and was like getting over it, and then the lockdown happened and it sent her back to that place, and then she gets embroiled in this like kind of like Coppola the Conversation style thing, but with like the equivalent of Amazon and Bezos essentially. It was cool. I liked it. Yeah. But yeah, so Terrifier 2, Final Destinations. I'm trying to think, did I see anything else cool recently? I did see shit. I can't remember anything. New horror movie, Smile.
Ooh, spooky. The trailer for that.
Yeah.
Ooh, squeaks me out.
It is really spooky. That lead actress, I don't know who she is, but she's great. Love there.
Yeah, I love body horror, but body horror plus jump scare is hard
and
for
there
me.
are a shit ton of them in Smile. Yeah, I feel like
I
there's
can
a
tell.
lot.
That's
Yeah.
exclusively what it's trading in.
I also really like the guy who's in the trailer because he's really scary, but also kind of dorky, and the line delivery is a little cringy. But
The one who's yelling, "You're gonna die."
You're gonna die. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I don't know. There's something I really like about that. That like it feels not good. Like he feels like he's not acting it well. But it is scary, and there's some sort of combination of it being a scary sequence and this guy kind of hamming it up that makes it.
But it's still effective.
Yeah, like almost like an uncanny valley. Like why?
I mean, I think that's the whole thing about Smile, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It exists in the.
Capitalizing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched the trailer probably like upwards of 50 times, like in an attempt to
shit.
exposure therapy myself into like being down, and it ain't gonna happen. It's
just not gonna watch
it's
it.
just simply not gonna happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of junk. I also want to talk about some current political things because there's a million awful, terrible things, and most of them are hilarious that are happening. And the funniest to me right now is our main man in Georgia, Mr. Herschel Walker.
Oh, talk about it.
Being the funniest. I just love the guy. I mean, I just love him. There's a commitment to being a moron, and okay, so I guess we should talk about exactly all the hilarious parts about it. But first off, it came out that Herschel Walker's staunchly anti-abortion, paid for an abortion from an ex-girlfriend or just somebody he knew?
Who had previously given birth to one of his kids.
Oh, okay. Had previously given birth to one of his kids. That's right. And she came forward to the Daily Beast, I think, and had all the receipts from the doctor's visit. But the best part was the card that said something like "Get well soon, Herschel Walker." But the funniest part is he put his football number on the card to the woman. That is poetic buffoonery.
It's almost like a Simpsons bit.
Yeah, and
You know
then
what I mean?
yeah, and then the next day or like 2 days afterwards, the Daily Beast reached out to him about another. I'm going to get something about this wrong, but another accusation. And he said, "I don't know that woman. I've never met that woman." And then they went back and they said, "Actually, we verified a source that says you do. And it was you when we interviewed you like 3 months ago in June and asked you the same question. And you said you knew the lady." And so then he had to explain why he said he knew her. And man, it's so good. And then it just all culminates in him pulling out a fake police badge at the debate last week. Did you see that part?
I did, and I saw many people joking on Twitter, so I'm not stealing a single person's joke, but saying, "Oh, have we tried just giving him a badge that says senator on it?" But I think
it might work.
It could work, but
There's a lot of CTE
aside,
rattling around that it might just say, "Hey, you're a senator now."
Yeah, it's bleak. But I think there's, kind of jokes aside, the thing that's like so upsetting about the Herschel Walker situation is it's such a demonstration of the fact that power is liquid. Like it just evolves into whatever form it has to
Right.
take in order to serve its own needs.
Sure.
And that the Republicans don't care because they know as long as that slot is filled, they can maintain the block
Sure.
that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need to accomplish what they want. So he can say whatever he wants, he can do whatever he wants. I mean, I imagine that there is some upper limit,
Right.
but certainly we haven't reached it yet. We haven't tapped it yet.
Yeah.
That they just simply won't care and will continue to respond as if nothing is happening, and that they have earmuffs on because it suits their needs.
Yeah. And I mean, he's the perfect candidate to just be whatever they want because it seems like he has no convictions of his own. Which I mean, his son is the same. Which is like his son seems to just be
No, his son found some convictions.
against his
week.
dad. Yeah. Well, that was like because that was like
He said, that's the limit. That's it. I draw the line here.
Right.
It wasn't issue 1, 7, 19, 25.
It was, "Hey, Pops, you're going to mess up my grift. So now I've got to, like, blood is thicker than water, but the grift is thicker than all." So it was like, literally the second Herschel Walker was like, not part of the Christian Walker brand, he was like, "Oh, let me come." Yeah. Just
Yeah, you're going to threaten my YouTube bucks, Dad.
exactly. Yeah. While I'm still on it before I end up on Parlor or whatever.
Which is a great segue. Because did you see the news today?
No.
Oh, Kanye West is trying to buy Parlor.
Oh, hell yeah. That would be a disaster. And
Whew.
that is okay. I didn't see this, so tell me more.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, essentially. That
He just said
has-
it.
Yeah, I mean, that he's in negotiations.
Yeah.
Is like the general reporting.
All right. Elon got Twitter, so I'm gonna get Parlor. Parlay. Do you know the Parlor thing?
Is this like freedom fries where they won't say parlay because it's associated with the French?
Kind of. Except it was just that everyone who used it was an idiot and didn't know the word parlay, and they were like calling it Parlor, and the people who created it were like, "Guys, it's parlay," but they're all like dum-dums, so they just kept calling it Parlor. So until the guys who created Parlay were like, "All right, well, it's just Parlor now." So they just gave in to him, which I love that too. That's great.
I mean, I think you have to know your audience.
Yeah, for sure
Right.
they did. Those guys.
You made your bed, now lie in it.
That's business acumen. But like at least there's only that weird thing that Kanye's done.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely not, me who waited in line in 2008 in the Target that was across the street from my high school to
Hell
get
yeah.
a deluxe edition of graduation,
Yeah, hell yeah.
is not weeping inside at
Yeah,
all times
It's
by
it
everything
is.
he does.
Yeah, it's really sad. Like he has a great. I mean, it's just so weird. Like listening to his the one that I was watching a video on YouTube of somebody. I can't remember who it was, but it was a comedian that said the guy that made New Slaves and was like comparing the lyrics of New Slaves, and then the White Lives Matter shirt and all that nonsense. It's just the disconnect between who he was and like what. Yeah, it's really upsetting. It's a bummer.
Yeah, it is very upsetting. It's a bummer in the context of like the lost artistic genius, in my opinion. And also, like, as someone who has some experience with, let's say, a common diagnosis, it's very upsetting to me to witness, like, the degradation of someone. And I think, many people have said important things along the lines of mental illness does not, like, justify or, defend anything that he's done. I think that's obviously very true. Like, people can have values that they stand by regardless of their diagnoses. But I think that it's very clear that he has just like experienced unrestrained mania. And if you have not occupied that headspace, it's hard to fully understand the ways in which you will do things that are not you.
Right.
And I think that being entrenched over years and years and only being surrounded by yes men and having so much money, like all of those things, which is not to say it's an excuse, but simply I do think that the mental health component is a significant one, and so it makes me very sad, and I wish he would fucking cut it out.
Definitely. Yes. And did you see his Drink Champs interview?
Yes.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
just more
Also,
of the-
stop being anti-Semitic. I feel like that's necessary to say.
Yeah.
Do not endorse being anti-Semitic. Do not endorse you being colorist towards black women. Like, stop.
Yeah,
Stop it, bro.
Stop it all. Actually, just take YouTube away from Kanye, because I honestly feel like that.
And definitely don't give him Parlor.
Yeah. Like Kanye just went down a YouTube rabbit hole that we've seen like every idiot that like likes Alex Jones or whatever. Like they all went down the same YouTube rabbit hole that Kanye's on now, and it's clear to see the line, and it's just such a bummer. I also have I told you about my cosmic connection that I feel like I have with Kanye that feels broken now. So I broke my jaw when I was 15 in high school. Yeah.
Did you only drink Ensure?
It
for your wired jaw?
Yeah, and it was Ensure for dinner. If I was feeling spicy, chocolate pudding cup
For dessert?
just all the time, but couldn't do it at school because tried that once and then had chocolate pudding smeared all over my face at the lunch. Was not a great look.
Oh.
Smoothies, yeah. Oh, this is a tangent, but the grossest part, the weirdest
It's
part
all
about
a
breaking
tangent.
about breaking my jaw was at the hospital. They gave my parents they're like, here, try this. Try these recipes, and it was like a cookbook for like a busted jaw, but it was not like it was like I was hoping it would be like a tropical smoothie menu, but it was like, do you like fried chicken? Try this. And it was like just ways to put fried chicken in a blender, or like I don't know what it was, but just like mac and cheese and lasagna liquefied. It was so gross. I remember my mom tried like one of them, and I was like, we're just gonna stick with the Ensure. But anyway,
my
yeah,
goodness.
it was so gross.
They really need to set Willy Wonka on that. We really need to get Willy Wonka out here making an improved menu for people that doesn't require too much chewing.
I would have loved that. But no, I had a PB&J and a Cuisinart or whatever. It was gross. But anyway, so while my jaw was wired shut was when Kanye was first popping off, and Through the Wire was like the first big one that like he broke outside of Chicago and stuff. And I don't know, it was just the same time my jaw was wired shut, everybody, this Kanye guy, and I went and listened to his album immediately, and he was just great, and everything about him was great, and I loved him, and now he's wearing White Lives Matter shirts and going DEFCON on Jewish people, which is a bummer.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. He needs a soul intervention from people that care about him, but it seems that ship has maybe sailed. I will say, last thing I'll say before we talk about something maybe a little more optimistic, which is hot take. I like the beard.
Yeah, he doesn't look bad with the beard. Yeah, he looked like it looked nice. I mean, he's always had a little scruff, but the like, yeah.
I think the beard.
But he immediately got rid of it though.
Did he?
Yeah, because I don't think he has it on Drink Champs. Let me look it up. I'm pretty sure in the Drink Champs interview he had shaved it.
Oh.
Drink Champs, Kanye.
The one good thing.
Yeah, he shaved it.
Wow.
Anyways, Drake.
The disappointment abounds.
I know. Just when you thought, well, at least he's got the beard.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
So, anyways, you said you had some good news.
Some good news. So I think before we transition to talking about the movie that we came together to chat about
That's true.
today, I did want to, because elections are coming up, that here in Florida, there are two candidates that
It sounds formal. I like it.
take your candidate on a candidate. But there are two candidates in Florida that are up for Florida Senate in the Florida legislature that I'm particularly excited about. I think it's important that we talk about the Florida legislature and the elections that are happening statewide this year, because if the Republicans win one more seat in the Florida Senate, so either they flip one that had been Democrat, or there are several new districts because of the redistricting that happened in 2020, that if those things, if that happens, then they don't have to put any bills through committees because they'll have a super majority. And so usually the Florida Senate is the moderating body, right, in the legislature. Like the Senate is like, the House is just like out here shooting off fireworks out of their ass, right? And the Senate's like, okay, we'll join you, but could we take a second to think about it first? And they won't have to even take a second. There won't be committees. We won't have an opportunity to testify in front of those committees. It will go straight to the floor. So it's really, really important. But anyway, there are two queer women that are running for Florida Senate. One of them is in Senate District 18. That's Unique Ortiz. She's in Pinellas. I've actually worked with her a little when I worked in the Win Justice campaign, which was an independent expenditure campaign in 2018. That organized around issues of like labor, reproductive rights, that kind of thing, progressive concerns. And she's really cool. She has a background as a union organizer. And Senate District 18, that seat is currently held by Janet Cruz, who is a Democrat. So it's really important that we keep it. And Unique is a lesbian. So, hashtag elect lesbians. She'll be there for us on a variety of issues, but we know she cares about rent and their, extreme costs of housing, LGBTQ rights, abortion, birth control, LGBTQ rights, all of these things. And then there's also Janelle Perez, who's running in Senate District 38. That is a brand new district, so there is no incumbent for it. And that's in Miami-Dade. So I just want to say, like, if you think about all the horrible crap that the Republicans have been doing the last couple of years in Florida, whether that be HB7, right, like the anti-CRT that's being used to harass teachers and harass LGBTQ families and deny the legacy of slavery and its impact in Florida, which was part of the Confederacy, or HB1, which has been used to crush protesters in dissent and lead to local preeminence. So the governor can basically say, we don't like what you're doing locally, so much for local rule, right? And then also like the 15-week abortion ban, all of these things, which are already horrible. Imagine no brakes on those things, just throttle. Like they're just smashing into the wall as hard as they can. So my hope is that there are people that can help us, if not gain the Senate, at least stop them from making things worse.
Yeah, November 8th.
November
Please.
8th.
Yes, please. Because Florida will continue to be the vanguard in some of the worst shit that we have to offer as a nation. So, yeah. Okay, so the movie that we decided to kick things off with is Bong Joon Ho's 2019 film Parasite. Parasite is the 7th feature film from South Korean director Bong Joon Ho. Before we get into the movie, I just kind of want to run down his filmography and kind of briefly touch on some of his other movies. So, starting off with, I believe his first movie is one that neither of us have seen. Is that right?
Doing a great job starting off professional out the gate.
Doing great. Barking Dogs Never Bite, which is one that's always on my list of meant to seize it, but never seen it. His second movie is Memories of Murder, which I have seen, but I believe you have not.
Correct.
Yes, Memories of Murder's dope. It's cool. It's a murder investigation, and it features one of my favorite things about Bong Joon-ho's movies is characters that are just kind of like bumbling, like delightful, incompetent dweebs. I feel like he's really good at just kind of, just like a everyman who kind of bumbles his way into figuring something out. And Memories of Murder is that, but they're two detectives who find a body. It's cool. You should check it out. And then 2006 is perhaps my favorite of his movies. I love this movie, The Host. How do we feel about
your
it?
favorite.
It's also the first one I saw of his, so it might just be the like bias of like discovering.
It imprinted upon you.
Right? Yeah. Because I can.
You're
like,
now the host for.
Hey.
Yeah, I have very a positive opinion on it. I definitely agree that it feels like it is a signpost for kind of the direction that his
Yeah, for, like,
career ends up taking.
what he'll be, the big spectacle of a gross water monster, but like paired with a very intimate story about this family, which also features another great Bong Joon Ho, like bumbling, incompetent doofus, if I remember correctly. Isn't it? Isn't Song Kang Ho, who's in Parasite, isn't he the uncle who runs the little like newsstand or shop or whatever? That's kind of just a dweeb about everything.
Yes, yeah.
Love it.
It's also the host also has a little bit of like Del Toro vibes for me.
Yeah.
And I love him.
Yeah. Those guys do really well in the like monsters with feelings category of movies.
A creature feature with heart.
A creature, yeah. I was going to try to add on to that. And then I said, you know what? That's perfect. And then 2009, another one that I don't think either of us have seen, which is Mother. So we're going to skip right over that like it doesn't even exist. And then 2013, the one that broke him big in the U.S. because it was his first English language movie, Snowpiercer with Chris Evans. How do you feel about it?
I love this movie. I think that it is, and we're going to dig into this a little bit with Parasite, but I think that it is a movie that really crystallizes class conflict for people who do not otherwise have a vocabulary for that, or maybe have not conceived of their experiences in that through that lens. Also, I have a lot of respect for Chris Evans as someone that is, very like classically handsome and muscle bound, but is a really solid actor in kind of an unassuming way. Like he doesn't give super showy performances. Also, I love Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton forever.
She's great.
Related to my earlier comment about loving Suspiria 2018. Fuck Maggie Thatcher. But thanks for delivering a great rendition, Tilda.
Yeah, she's fantastic in that as just a awful, nasty villain, and she gets to ham it up, which is like, I mean,
the teeth.
Oh,
the teeth are their own performance.
So is the hair, honestly. But
yeah,
like,
that's true. The bob.
The the bob. Yeah, I was thinking it was. Oh, yeah, it is gross. I will say my MVP in Snowpiercer though is Alison Pill in the like school scene. That is great. She's wild.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that it's so clever. And I mean, obviously there are other works of art and film that use this approach, but A Train is segmented by nature of its structure.
Right.
And it lends itself really well to these episodic moments that you can have these just totally different feelings from car to car as you move through it, right? It's like, oh, in one scene, someone's getting their friggin' arm blasted off by ice outside of a hole, which is brutal. And then the next, it's like, oh, there's a pregnant teacher who's smiling. And it's like, suddenly there's guns. And then there's like plants and beautiful food being served. And then there's like bug goo that people are, forming into gelatin blocks. Like, I think that the putting it on a train is very clever for that reason.
Also love the bug goo. Again, highbrow, lowbrow, like everything, if it appeals to my base instincts, like I just love when people eat gross shit in movies. It's, I don't know, something about it just gets me every time.
I also love gross stuff.
And then in 2013, Bong Joon Ho comes out with Okja, the Netflix original, my favorite part. I just stared. I was waiting for you to react. I just stared like a wide-eyed.
My favorite part of the Netflix original is that they paid Jake Gyllenhaal to be in a movie
hell
that showed up on my TV.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie is awesome. I think this movie's like it's all right. I like it all right. It's a little on the nose or whatever, and but that the super pig's adorable. Love the super pig. But Jake Gyllenhaal is awesome. Like I unhinged Jake Gyllenhaal is out of this world.
I love when Jake Gyllenhaal delivers a performance that's like a little gay. Like it's just there's a little
Which ones are we putting
cherry on the cap. Well, I mean Velvet Buzzsaw. It like
I didn't see Velvet Buzzsaw.
The movie is gurgles into infinity, but his performance is deranged. Like he plays like a gay art critic.
Okay.
And it's nonsense. I would say that, I see a little sprinkling of the gay fairy on, I would say, Nightcrawler.
Hell yeah. I just rewatched Nightcrawler. It's so good.
Like, Donnie Darko, I think, pretty obviously has a gay interpretation that is possible in understanding, like, the alienation of youth. And... like Bubble Boy for me, the OG, like my original reasoning for loving. I would say, I see the goddess shining her light on.
What is? Well, I'm trying to think. What's the first time I was aware of Jake Gyllenhaal? I mean, Bubble Boy, yeah, for sure.
And my mom and I used to watch it all the time.
I don't know if I ever actually saw Bubble Boy. I'm just aware of it as a.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I don't know if it played on TBS or something, but my mom and I used to watch it all the time. Yes. Like the song, I could still sing you the song.
Does he get out of the bubble?
No. He has an autoimmune disorder.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I didn't know it. I just thought this movie was about like a weird kid who just liked to be in one of them ball things that you roll around in. I had no idea. All right, well.
Today you're going to learn, Craig.
Here we go. Love it. Okay, was Bubble Boy before or after?
Bubble Boy is his first
Donnie
feature
Darko.
film. He was like 15.
Hold on, because he was in City Slickers.
I am almost positive. I will look it up right now. I am almost positive that Bubble Boy is his first feature film. We're gonna see right now. I'm doing a great shame upon my household, and to be clear, I don't mean my literal household that my husband lives in. I mean like my emotional household that is constituted by me. We're gonna see. Wow, his Wikipedia picture is great.
Is it?
My God.
Like
yeah,
handsome?
He's got like a gold chain. I mean, he's always handsome.
What's he handsomest in?
See, this is where I'm gonna sound like a crazy person, but Nightcrawler. I love that skinny, creepy.
Good Lord.
Like creepy guy
I'm
look.
too close to having watched it, but yeah, he's a nightmare in that. I don't know. I can't.
Oh, you're right. City Slickers.
Yeah.
Also, Donnie. Oh, it came out the same year.
Is Donnie? What year
as
was
Bubble
that?
Boy, 2001.
Oh God.
But City Slickers was. Wow, why did I think Bubble Boy? Maybe just because in my head, like, he doesn't exist prior to.
I mean, fair.
He emerged from the ether into the bubble.
Fair. And legit, he's in City Slickers for like 2 minutes. He's like, at the beginning, he's Billy Crystal's son, I think. Yeah, he is. Because of course.
That's disrespectful to Jake Gyllenhaal's eventual beauty.
Yeah, because Jake Gyllenhaal never did blackface.
Oh, that too. The soul beauty also.
Billy Crystal's doing blackface a lot.
That's bad.
He did it a lot.
Didn't he do it on the Oscars?
Multiple times. Because he would do a Sammy Davis Jr. impression. And which, like...
We're all going to hell. And he's going there first.
Listen, if I'm going to hell, I don't want it to be because Billy Crystal dragged me there.
Drag me to hell. Billy Crystal edition.
Shit. I was gonna say that Jake Gyllenhaal is very hot in Prince of Persia, but also that movie's terrible.
I don't love the hair in that. The hair is like there's other things, as you said. There's obviously the racial politic of him, but just the hair is not good on him.
I didn't
like Jughead. Like same that Jarhead is like the ugliest. Like that is like I don't like him in Southpaw. Like I don't. I don't like a super buff Gyllenhaal. I want an effete, effeminate,
Yeah, I like
a
that.
little gay
Sure.
Gyllenhaal. It's my
Yeah.
preference.
And I realize he has a lot of bad movies too that I feel like he's good in.
He just has a lot of movies.
Yeah, because End
Like-
of Watch is dog
Oh,
shit.
is that the one with Michael Pena?
Yeah.
Pena?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that movie's dog shit.
He
But
plays a lot of cops, and it hurts me.
Pena or Gyllenhaal?
Well, both of them, honestly, but I was referring to Gyllenhaal.
Yeah? What else is he a cop in?
He
Prisoners.
Yeah.
He's like an ex-cop.
God, oh, that movie has a lot of Paul Dano is one of my other. Excuse me, I learned not that long ago his name is actually pronounced Paul Dano, which is crazy.
Really?
Yes, it's like learning that Rihanna's name is not Rihanna, it's Rihanna. Like breaks my brain.
I didn't know that either.
Paul Dano has again been another one of those like from day one. I've been there.
Paul Dano is our premier actor for getting the shit kicked out of you on screen. Like, he's got a lot of great him getting beaten up scenes.
He might have the highest profile of an actor who looks the creepiest.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think there are other people that probably look creepier than him, but
I got
have
one.
not. Oh, who?
Shit. Landry from Friday Night Lights and from Breaking Bad. He's dating Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, Jesse Plemons isn't creepy looking.
I mean, I feel like as a guy who looks a little bit like Jesse Plemons, like red hair, pale.
I mean, I'm not saying that
He has a
I'm not saying
menacing
that
vibe.
he is the. In Game Night, he certainly has a
And that is
menacing vibe.
honestly what I think of him every time I think of him. I think of him in, like, that's not even like his most notable, but I think that's the most like condensed, perfect example of Jesse Plemons' menacingness.
See, I think the overall vibe I get from him is downtrodden.
Hell yeah, like
You
that
know,
too.
and that's like most recently in The Power of the Dog. You know, he just kind of had. Oh.
I know, I need to see it.
Oh.
I wanna see it so
Man.
bad.
Have you seen Elvis? Like, I'm about to take you on a ride
Oh,
here.
I started watching it, and it was. This is about Parasite, by the way.
We're gonna get there.
I started watching Elvis, and it was a little too wild, and I was maybe too tired, and
It is a fever dream, but it's. What I'm about to say is nonsense because you shouldn't watch two disparate movies to have like a payoff of one moment where they like bounce off of each other
Sure.
emotionally. But Cody, I can't remember his last name, but he's the main dude from Power of the Dog.
okay.
The kind of
Simpson. Is that
lizard
somebody?
looking. Cody Sampson is someone, but it's
That's
not
like
that
a pop
guy.
star from like 15 years
Yeah,
ago. Like,
I think
that's
you're
like
right.
an Aaron Carter caliber. But
Close, no cigar. But this kid, I think his name maybe is Landry. Oy vey. Not Power of the Dog explained. That's not what I meant to Google. I understand this movie. I don't need somebody to explain it to me. No shame if you need someone to explain this movie to you. Cody Smith McPhee is his name.
I like
He's a
that
three-namer.
kid. Yeah.
He is the main character,
Okay.
right? He's the driver of the action, or the lack of action, maybe, in Power of the Dog. And he is in Elvis very briefly
Oh,
as the son of like the promoter of like a country music promoter, I think
Okay.
is his role. Or maybe he's in the act. It's like, might be like Hank Williams.
yeah. I think
He
he's
might
in
be
like the
Hank Williams
15 minutes
Jr.?
I've seen. He's like
Yeah,
the bassist or
he
something.
literally, you may have seen the clip where he goes, "He's white," like where he's the guy, what's his name, Tom Hanks' character, the Colonel Parker, sees or hears Elvis for the first time,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "Who is that?" And Cody Smith is like, "He's white." And there's just something about the dialogue between this man's personal journey on film that
Sure.
just caused me to cackle.
He's white. I mean,
Like, oh,
ugh.
thanks for being with me on that journey because I know it was.
We got there from Jesse Plemons.
Yes, yeah.
Is Jesse Plemons in Elvis?
No,
Oh, okay. He's in Game Night, and then
he
we
is,
got
and then he's in Power of
lost
the
it.
Dog.
Power of the Dog. That's
Yeah.
where we were.
Yeah.
And
Get back on the train. Time to get back on the train.
Because we have obviously been talking about Snowpiercer this whole time. Oh no, shit! We are already done with Snowpiercer. We had already moved on to Okja, so that wasn't even a good segue back. Anyways, this is all a good segue to bring us back to the movie, which is Parasite, his seventh film. Seventh? Yeah, seventh. Parasite. What do you think about it? How do you like it?
Oh, we're doing a general talk about it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, do we like it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if someone says that they don't like this movie, they are either a contrarian or someone that does not watch film and so is just simply bored by the fact that there's not nonstop action.
Sure.
Or they're racist. Like, I feel like you've got to choose a bucket,
I mean,
man. Are you a racist
one
bucket?
Is
Are
a big
you
one. And the racist bucket is large and vast, so that might be a large part of the.
Yeah, well, we eject those people's opinions because
Hell
they're wrong.
yeah.
There's beautiful filmmaking.
Yeah,
here.
Parasite's dope. I love Parasite. Let's get into it, and we're gonna spoil the shit out of Parasite, right?
Yeah. Also, we've been spoiling a variety of things,
yeah,
so probably we should put a spoiler at the top.
Yeah.
Do not listen to us if you care about spoilers.
Right. Don't listen to us if you haven't seen Bubble Boy and know that Jake Gyllenhaal has an autoimmune disease in it.
To be fair, that's revealed in the first.
Oh, okay. Good.
That's why he's in the bubble.
Yeah, so I guess we should do a synopsis of Parasite if anybody hasn't maybe not seen it. So Parasite is the story of the Kim family, a family of four: mom, dad, daughter, son, adult daughter and son, kind of downwardly mobile. Is that the term we want to say for it? They live in
like literally under the ground, downwardly mobile.
Under the ground. Yes, we see that they don't have Wi-Fi. They kind of have various methods of pinching a penny here and there. The Kim family as a whole, they're cool. I would hang out with the Kim family. Like, yeah, they you know, they get into some business, but they seem pretty.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear they're shown as being having some ingenuity.
For sure,
right?
yeah.
That they're definitely bonded together as a nuclear family. They take care of each other, but they're a little no nonsense.
Sure.
And they're kind of straight shooters.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of love that about the movie, that they are like, it is a family who cares about each other, and like when like shit pops off in the movie, it is impactful. Like they aren't. It's not played for laughs. Their situation, like their interpersonal situation, I feel like feels very real, and I like the way they interact as a family. I think it's great. So yeah, we've got the Kim family, who's this downwardly mobile family. They can't really. None of them are employed, except they are employed by the pizza company to fold pizza boxes. For I forgot how much it was per box.
Not enough exploitation.
Plus, they fucked up a few of the boxes, so they got their pay docked when we saw that. But their situation changes when the son in the Kim family, who is named Ki-woo, he's played by the actor Chon Wook-sik, he meets an old college friend who tells him about a job opportunity mentoring a young girl in a more upwardly mobile family.
In English. In English.
Does he tell him in English?
No, he's tutoring her in
I was
English.
like, wait, is there an English section in this one? Yes, tutoring her in English, yes. And the part that I think is kind of, I really love in the movie, just kind of following the trajectory of the rock that he gives him, which is kind of like the golden briefcase in like Pulp Fiction of this movie, which is kind of a symbol of nothing and everything. I guess what does the rock symbolize?
Oh, we jump right in. I mean, I think that the rock symbolizes the tokens that the bourgeoisie give to the proletariat to placate and like pacify
Sure.
them. And I think like maybe the closest and maybe most obvious analogy is that it's like, you know, like a religious substitute of like, here is this beacon of hope, but it actually does not carry with it any material change.
Sure. Yeah, and that's kind of how I always thought it's just like this representation of what like what capitalism can do for you. Like it's the ultimate end goal. Like his friend went to college, he went and had these adventures, he's moving on in his life and he has this rock to give him that like even in the movie he doesn't understand why he likes it so much. I mean the like refrain that's so funny in the movie is they all keep saying it's so metaphorical about the rock. Um but yeah, to
It's
me
sinking. It's all sinking like a rock.
um but yeah, it's like the rock becomes this like symbol of what he thinks he wants as far as like success and being like an upwardly mobile um member of this capitalist society or someone who's too much. My my broken headphones just dangling off my head now, so this is looking very silly. That's all right.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and I think that um, also part of it is that it is beautiful, but ultimately trivial
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
trinket that you're saying is emblematic of a class status that they're trying to achieve. Like you too can have gorgeous nonsense things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And I also think like there's I leave open the possibility here that there's some cultural context obviously that we're
Sure,
missing
yeah,
in the
yeah.
sense of like what does that specifically mean, right? Like having a rock in your home, like does that have an explicit connection to a particularized religion practice or like cultural meaning? But I think like my interpretation is that it's intended to symbolize um, something that ultimately does not matter, but
Sure.
it's easy to be wrapped up in as a distraction.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, they say it's so metaphorical so many times that I think like Bong Joon Ho would essentially say, yes, exactly right. That is kind of what we were going for with it, which, and again, we are two white people who are not necessarily
From
familiar
America.
from America, who are not necessarily familiar with the cultural traditions of South Korea. So if it is something beyond that, it very well might be. But yes, I do get the feeling that like it is purely the metaphorical representation that all the characters refer to throughout. Um, so yeah, so the son, Kiwoo, he learns of this tutoring job from his college buddy and subsequently fibs his way into a tutoring position with this rich family, the Parks, which is also a mom, a dad, and a son and a daughter. The son and the daughter are teenager and preteen,
Yeah, the son is, I would say, maybe even younger than that.
younger than preteen, yeah, maybe like 7 or 8, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, he gets the job. He aces the interview, and there's a lot of creepiness with the daughter and the son character. Um, yeah, what do we make of that? I don't know if I know what I make of that.
I mean, so I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I think that a thing that I appreciate about Parasite a lot is that it is not in terms of like the leftist lens that it's being refracted through or like the to the extent that there's a leftist perspective that's definitive in it. It's not that of like the proletariat are unabashedly and unreservedly good at all times, right? Like I think that very much embodied in this movie is the idea that when you are exploited, when your labor is expropriated, when your surplus value is taken away from you, it's the classic Marx idea of you become alienated from yourself, you become alienated from the product of your labor, and you're alienated from other workers. And I think that, like, that's maybe with not so fine a point on it, but kind of what's going on there with like general shittiness happening in the behavior of the
Sure,
kid and
yeah, yeah.
family, right? Is like they aren't good people,
Right.
but that is not really, it does not really come to bear on whether or not the Parks are good people,
Sure.
right? Like those are like can be separate questions that we
Sure,
consider.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so he gets the job tutoring the teenage daughter, and the son, who's kind of like a rambunctious kid that is wearing a lot of Native American imagery throughout, which again is so metaphorical, though I'm not sure if I'm smart enough to.
So metaphorical.
I'm not sure if I'm smart enough to address metaphors. But they learn of a secondary position in the house, teaching the young son. Is it art class? It's art class, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
doing art therapy.
Art therapy with the young boy, and she, Jessica, only child, Illinois, Chicago. Their little rehearsed bit, so they don't give away that they know each other and that they're just bullshitting their way into this Park family's life. But also a success. And I like the style of like the juxtaposition of kind of how she approaches it versus how he does, because he seems very like reserved. He's always kind of seems like he's a little on edge about getting caught, whereas when the daughter, who's the character name is Ki Jung and is played by the actress Park So Dam, she's more like assertive and kind of goes in and kind of takes control of the situation, and then kind of like a little bit directs traffic for the rest of the family to kind of weasel their way into their lives.
Yeah, I think, the son, as they reference repeatedly, is quite adept, right? He's quite smart, and kind of it's intimated that he lacks the opportunity
Sure.
to be able to pursue that further. And I think there's kind of a series of different windows into the experience of working people, right? Like, because he is very much someone that probably, if he had the resources and the family support and the background, that he would be the equivalent of his friend that we see exiting at the beginning. Whereas the sister is more wit driven, right? Like she is surviving through her creativity and her wit. And those are different approaches to coping with poverty.
Yeah, definitely. And we see that wit on display in the way she gets her father a job, which is played by Song Kang Ho, who's awesome. We've already talked about him. He's great. But her little plot for getting the dad a job as the driver of the family involves, it doesn't involve much, actually. She kind of lets it unravel itself with just what is it, just the underwear in the backseat of the car?
Yeah.
Yeah, she leaves a pair of underwear in the backseat of the car and lets the father of the family come to his own conclusions about the relative perviness of his chauffeur. To the point.
I was going to say propriety, so propriety and perviness.
I mean, like, pervy is, I'm not necessarily meaning in a condescending or, like, demeaning way. Like, listen, good perverts and bad perverts.
Touche.
We're the good ones.
Cheers to that.
And then we get to what, to me, is just my favorite part of the movie, which is how the mom of the family gets a job. So at this point, the father, played by Song Kang Ho, is employed with this Park family, this rich family, and both of his children, his son and his daughter. And then the mom also sees a way in, and we get to the part that's, okay, so as a kid, I loved movies where, like, a plot was being hatched and, like, a process.
We love schemes.
Yes, I love schemes. Let's talk, like, heavyweights. Yeah, heavyweights. Camp Nowhere. Did you see Camp Nowhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Anything where somebody was coming up with a scheme and a plan and a plot, and then you get to see how it unfolds.
Machinations.
Yes, I love that. I love every single bit of it. So the peach fuzz, the peach fuzz sabotage is my shit in this movie. I love it so much. Do you want to explain the peach fuzz sabotage?
She identifies mother, Miss Kim identifies that the former, or to that point, goodness gracious, the housekeeper for the Park family is allergic to peaches. So it's essentially she puts fuzz on her on several occasions and makes Miss Park think that her existing housekeeper has tuberculosis.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
In a number of ways, and then it culminates in one of my favorite like shots in the movie, which is Song Kang Ho pulling out the planted tissue with what is it, like Szechuan sauce or something on it, and to as a fake bloody tissue, which is just a moment that I love so much. It's shot in like a great like Bong Joon Ho kind of montagey. Like we're hatching a plan and carrying it out. Like
Yeah, it's pretty snappy.
yeah, it's
Like,
so good. I love that shit. Yeah, it's so good. I love a scheme. I'm like, which one loved the schemes on the A team? Which one loved it when a plan came together?
I gotta tell you, the only A team I've ever seen is the one that Bradley Cooper was in.
Yeah, he loved it. That's who loves it. That one, Hannibal. That's who it is. He loves when a plan
You
comes
got
together.
there.
He loves.
Bradley Cooper loves when a plan comes
You know-
together.
Oh no! I'm wrong. He's Face Man. It's it's Liam Neeson is the one who loves it when a
he's
plan comes
canceled.
together.
He's canceled.
What did he do? Oh, he wanted to hunt down black people and
said
wherever.
very, very racist, vile shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Unprompted.
Yeah,
Like, the questions being asked to him were not in any way related.
yeah, and he was
Not
like,
that there would be any. I'm just saying, like, it's like an addition.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And then on top of that, he was like, let me trot this out in front of you.
yeah, I was like, how do you stay young in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, let me say some vile shit.
Yeah, Liam. Yeah. Fuck Liam Neeson. We don't need him.
Yeah.
Do we need him?
We don't need someone
we
whose
don't.
special set of skills involves being a racist.
We got enough of those.
Ding.
So at this point, all of the members of the Kim family are employed in the Park household, all pretending they don't know each other, which is fantastic. I love that. So we get to the camping trip where the Park family leaves the home, leaving all 4 members of the Kim family to kind of fucking party down in the Park household, right? I mean, that is kind of how they treat it. Like, they just kind of go nuts and start eating and drinking and lazing about. And I love all that. I love the, like, again, I love the interactions with the Park family. They're, I don't know. I love a good, like, I'm trying to see exactly how I mean this. Like, I love a moral, no, they're not quite moral. I was gonna say a moral dirtbag. Like, I just love, like, just skeevy characters who, like, have heart.
Yeah, well, I think they're
forced to be
there's-
kind of dirtbags by their circumstances.
yes, and they're scummy, but they respect and care for each other.
Yeah. And for the most part, I feel like they do, like, respect and care for the other people in their lives. They're not necessarily selfish. Like, I do think there's, like, something, especially with the Song Kang Ho character, like the dignity of, like, work and being good at something. Like, you see that a lot in the, like, scenes where he's driving and Mr. Park keeps, like, commenting on how good of a driver he is, and he almost gets that, like, proud look on his face, even though he knows he's, like, bullshitting everything about his job and all that. But yeah, I just love the Kim family. So while the Kim family's kind of just having a good time at the Park's household, the Moon Gwang, the former housekeeper, returns in kind of a panicked state, saying that she what did she say? She left something.
She left something in the basement.
She left something in the basement. To which now the movie. This is the point where, like, I remember the first time I saw it kind of being like, what is the thing? Like, when is it coming? And this is the kind of the point where the movie kind of breaks wide open. And when she comes, she reveals this hidden basement / panic room bunker underneath the house, where her husband has been living for years.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact time,
Yeah, I don't
but I
remember
want to
either.
say it was like 5 years or something, because he's hiding from loan sharks.
Yes, hiding from loan sharks, and kind of their only source of income was her job with this family who he's been living in their basement, kind of just eating the food and sending out weird signals on a, what does he use, like the
Use
lights on the outside?
to
Yeah, yeah,
communicate via Morse code.
yeah. And that shit is great. Like
Literally subterranean.
literally subterranean. Yeah, like Jinsei is the husband of the former housekeeper who lives also underground, and he's not doing well. He is unwell, I would say. When they discover him, he's a bit manic. Is that the right word for his state?
Yeah. Frenetic for sure.
Yeah. And so is the nanny, or nanny? No, housekeeper. She's a housekeeper.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of
Housekeeper,
also
nanny,
is a nanny, yeah.
Yeah, they're both kind of in a frenetic, panicked state, which, fuck, why am I getting all this shit confused now? Okay. And while they are kind of in this frenetic state, the former housekeeper kind of tells them that she is going to reveal. She says that she knows they know each other, which is the first kind of like shoe to drop on the Kim family, that someone knows what their scheme is, and threatens to reveal it to the Park family, which leads us to maybe the greatest, like, I don't get too hyperbolic, but like the sequence, the montage sequence of the Park family driving home early from their camping trip, and the Kims having to kind of cover their tracks quickly. Yeah. That montage is so good, of like trying to cook dinner and clean up their mess. Also hide the fact that no one should be there except for the mom.
Except for the mom, yeah. Well, I think it's like also, they become really frenetic. So it's kind of this like dominoes falling of like the, former housekeeper enters in and her anxiety level is high and she's introducing this new kind of pace and beat, interjecting in there like pleasantness, right? They're hanging out, they're relaxed, they're drinking and luxuriating in these rich people's house, and it's like she comes in and introduces anxiety, then the family starts coming home, and it's like everything just starts bumping up from there.
And this is the point in the movie too where like I feel like the movie really puts a fine point on the idea that like the capitalist class system really just turns the lower class on itself, like perpetually. Obviously we're going to see a lot more of this, and actually I guess they've already turned on each other, because they clearly had no issue getting her fired just to get a job, really. But now it's really like really cutthroat. But we have that great sequence where the montage of the family coming home and them cleaning up and then hiding just in time when the family walks through, and the mother character is preparing, what's the dish that she says she wants? Do you remember? She says she wants her to...
I thought it was ramen of some kind, but maybe
dish in Parasite. Ramdan. Yeah, you're right. Is that Ramdan, a Korean noodle dish from the movie? Oh, from the movie. Okay, well, this Google result just references Parasite when you're trying to figure out what exactly it is.
They said, we know why you're looking at this up, white man.
Yeah, we know why you know what this is. But yeah, so then we have the scene where the family comes home and they're all hiding, where they've all kind of successfully hidden out of the way, except for the Song Kang-ho character, who hides under the coffee table. And we get the great sequence of the Kim family. Well, the boy goes to sleep out in the yard in the tent, the teepee.
Right. And the Park parents are
getting down.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Getting down.
Hell yeah.
On the couch. And Mr. Park remarks on the smell.
Boom. Yeah, that's the big one. And the
smell.
Which is like, I mean, that comes back up. We'll talk about it. And but that is kind of like, I feel like a really good way to touch on like the way, just like the loss of dignity of like being the subject of like, I don't know, just like class derision or whatever. Just the way that like, I don't know, just something about like that person stinks is like so mean and like dehumanizing that it works perfect in that moment.
It definitely is dehumanizing. I think there's also something, this is so metaphorical, about this related to what is called cultural capital, which is, a term that's advanced by a French sociologist named Pierre Bourdieu, that capital that there's multiple forms of capital, right?
Mhm.
There's like fiscal capital, of course. There's human capital, but there's also cultural capital, which are like the signals, knowledge, practices, preferences that just kind of like infuse your life and that are not easily taught and that make it difficult to transition from class to class,
Mhm.
even as you gain like the material,
Yeah.
the fiscal capital to do so. And obviously, like the way you smell, there's a lot of things that feed into that. But I think part of it is like you can't hide. Like even if you think you have fully integrated as a proletariat into the bourgeoisie,
Right.
you cannot fucking hide. You have the stench of the proletariat on you. And like that for me, and obviously it's tied to like they live in a basement which was flooded. Like it has direct ties to the circumstances in which they live in the movie. But I see that like that's what it is symbolizing or speaking to in a way that like you just cannot evade it if you weren't of it, born in it, raised in it.
Sure.
If you're not it through and through, like someone's always going to smell it on you.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Damn. That and that whole. Yeah. And he does in that moment, like, because we know that Song Kang Ho's under the table, and there is a moment when Mr. Park sniffs the air and like senses that he's there without realizing that's what he's doing. And yeah, to me, like weirdly, that's kind of the most messed up part of the whole movie is all the times he smells him in disgust. Um, which yeah, it doesn't even get to the 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 smell climax that comes towards the end of the movie. Um, but yeah, he does successfully weasel his way out from under the coffee table where the Parks are getting freaky in a very like frigid sex scene. Like it is not sexy. It feels awkward. I mean, it is awkward, but yeah, it feels awkward and not sexy at all.
Yeah, it feels very
Okay, good. I'm
functionary.
glad I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I think it feels very like functionary, right? Like it's very instrumental. Like
This is what we
there's
do in our big fancy house where
right.
we are beautiful people, so we do what beautiful people do, and it looks like this, and it is awful and kind of awkward and strange.
Yeah, and you most recently were talking about how bad something smells.
Right. Yeah, that is always an element you
It's
want to
not,
keep.
how about this? It's not erotic.
Right.
Like there's no erotic power in it.
We want to keep the stenches out of the bedroom. So the Park family, excuse me, the Kim family does successfully escape without being detected and bring back all this new information that they have to their house, which they are finding is flooded because again they live underground. So their home, they are literally run out of their home by the elements, by nature, and have to kind of reconvene at like a high school auditorium or something. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of this big like earth shattering moment that almost feels like a side note in their lives to everything else that's happening, which I feel like is pertinent almost. That like, yeah, I don't know. Well, let me ask you, what do you make of the flooding basement apartment?
I mean, I think that it does not come as a surprise to them, right? Like it
Right. Yeah.
seems to be part and parcel of their
Yeah.
lives.
We got to deal with this now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, well, shit. It's like when you, if you've ever been in the circumstance where like you don't have enough gas money chronically, and so your car is just like constantly running out of gas, and you're like, well, fuck, now I gotta push the
Right,
car
yeah.
to this
Like-
gas station. Like, well, here we are, like, and it just is a thing that
You're
you
annoyed,
do.
but not necessarily shocked
It's
or surprised.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like de rigueur, right? Like it's just built into your day. And that's kind of how they respond to it. They seem to me to be dejected, but
Mhm.
not, but not shocked.
Mhm.
Is how I interpret that. I do think that there is some like dark comedy built into that scene, like when the water is like shooting out of the toilet.
Right, shooting like up and out like a
And they're like
Mr.
still
Bean
like
sketch.
right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Um So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily supposed to be experienced as a trauma so much as like demonstrating that the situation with the Park family is a detour. Like
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
that's an exception to the experiences of their lives,
Yeah.
whereas like this is what their lives
Right.
is
And I think it
are.
also points out how just like being broke is like literally everything gets compounded when you're broke. Like because we get to see the Park family like ride out the storm no problem, whereas the Kim family we get to see like
It's a crisis. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's also like deeply humiliating, right? Like you
Sure.
can see when like Mr. Kim is like laying on that cot when it does flash to them
Uh-huh.
in like the high school gymnasium or wherever they are, that he's just like the little bit of spirit that he had in him in those earlier scenes in the car, like he's just
Drained.
drained.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just gone. And not even like depressed, but just like an absence of positive feeling.
Right. Yeah. Which is the moment when he gets a call that he needs to run errands for the Park's son, who is the character's name is let me try to get it right.
Dasong?
Dasong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's having a birthday party, and he's got to go get the cake and get ready for the party the next day, which he does. And with increased, I feel like annoyance, you can see like, yeah, it is just that compounding thing of like being broke and still having a job to do, and like no one really caring that you're slept in a high school gymnasium because your school or your home flooded the night before. Um, but yeah, so he does that, and it all kind of heads to this climax at the son's birthday party at the Park house. Um, yeah, what do you want to say anything before we get into the shit that really pops off?
No, let's get into it.
Oh, I do want to talk about the scariest moment in the movie because it is like
Yes.
the ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
like that shit is awesome.
I was going to talk about this when we talk about our favorite scenes, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that image
Yeah.
and the way it's framed, right? It's symmetrical. The
So good.
staircase is directly in the center of the frame,
Yeah,
and it's so dark, and just his skin looks otherworldly and glowing,
yeah,
and
it's
his
so creepy.
yes, it's super.
Yeah.
It's and the way that like all of the rest of the movie is not creepy, and then there's just this punch of
Right.
horror
Yeah.
is like so sublime. Like
I
it's
love it.
yeah, it's genius.
Yeah, and I feel like Bong Joon Ho does that a lot, where like all of his movies are like kind of horror movies, but kind of not. They have horror elements, but I feel like this is the moment that is the most like just pure, like uncut Bong Joon Ho putting just like grade A horror movie making into just a not horror movie, which is like this horribly terrifying scene of the young Daesung going to the fridge in the middle of the night and seeing uh, the man who's been living in the basement rising up to try to like pilfer food in the middle of the night. Yeah, God, it's so good.
Yeah, it relates to. I was going to ask you, what genre do you consider this, or genres? Let me say in the Alex Trebek, what genres
Yeah,
do you consider
he really
this movie?
did like
He acted it up. I will say, Ken has
Yeah.
been doing it
He
a
goes,
little. Yes, yeah.
Alright, cool.
I mean, he's not French Canadian, so he doesn't have the full
Yeah, he's not.
heft behind it, but he has been
Yeah.
doing it.
did
I
love-
noticed.
That is great. It's almost as good as Steven Seagal say Vladimir Putin. Have you ever heard that?
I have not.
You should do it. There's one interview where he goes, he just puts so much mustard on it. He's Vladimir Putin, but it's Steven Seagal, so it's great.
Poutine. Speaking of French Canadian,
Full circle. So I was trying to do a Poutine, another one. So we get to the birthday day where the whole Kim family returns for their various jobs during the birthday party, and noteworthy, Kiwoo, the son, does bring the rock from the beginning. I don't. What is the reason he brings it back? I don't remember, but he does have it in hand.
the rock was floating
Right, and he
during the
recovered
flood
it.
scene, and he recovered it. So I assume it's like he did not want to leave the rock at
Oh.
the place, the
So s-
temporary displacement location where they were sleeping.
So it's literally the one thing he brought
Yeah.
with him. this thing that symbolizes like one day you'll make it, buddy, and
Right.
is the only thing he recovers and brings with him. So yeah, on the day of the birthday, Kiwoo comes in and he ventures back down the bunker to discover that Moon Gwang is dead from the kind of scuffle they had in the basement before, and Gunsei has kind of completely gone bonkers. Is that the right word?
That's the official term.
Yeah, he's clinically bonkers in the basement, and they have their own scuffle, and what becomes so metaphorical in that Guansei beats him to death. No, not to death. He beats him unconscious. I forgot which one died for a second. He beats him unconscious with the rock that he's been carrying around with him this whole time. And meanwhile, there is a child's birthday party going on outside, which is another shot that I love, which is Guansei coming up from the basement and just kind of patrolling through the house with the blood smeared across his face, like hunched forward and just kind of marching through the house. Because that's the other part that I love is like, yeah, he knows this whole house really intimately. Like he presumably used to work there or did something for them, at least had reason to know the Kim family. And when he gets out,
Or
just
the
kind
Park
of,
family.
yes, excuse me, the Park family. And when he gets out, kind of just marches his way through the house and straight out to the backyard. And I love an anachronistic like interruption in a movie, and like I just love the scene where like he just stumbles into this child's birthday party, just his face covered in blood, just ready to fuck shit up.
It is a disruption.
It is a bit of a disruption. It is not a good birthday party. But what he does is he. You want to say? Sorry, you leaned over. I thought I was interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
He stabs and kills Ki Jung, the daughter of the Kim family, kind of in front of everyone. And it's horrifying and scary and creepy and weird and really sad. Like I went back and watched that scene today, and it is not an easy death scene. Like it is pretty brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, again, I think, it not being a horror film, but then having these
Horrific.
horror beats in
Yeah.
it where it's just like, oh, an armed maniac has invaded a children's birthday party is a scene from a slasher, but it's embedded in a movie that's much different than a slasher in terms of the rest of its, trajectory and like emotional direction.
Yeah. And it not to be outdone, at that moment, Ki-taek, the character played by Song Kang-ho, that we already mentioned, his kind of his spirit is drained of him. I feel like two things happen, one of which I didn't pick up on the first few times I saw it, because I always thought it was the smell that sets him off. And then when I was rewatching that last scene today, the keys. Do you remember the keys when she's like bleeding out on the lawn, and he's holding his daughter in his arms, and Mr.
Park.
Mr. Park is just, the keys, give me the keys, we gotta get out of here. And like you see the like pain and annoyance. I don't know, Song Kang-ho's so good in this last like few beats of the story of the movie. But yeah, he plays it so well, of just like I don't know, a man like driven to a violent act in like a very stoic way.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is again one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like the way Mr. Park responds during this like denouement, where he's like, there's literally, you've just watched a woman be stabbed violently. We've watched a woman die, right, from being concussed and falling down the stairs in a violent way. There's this like ghastly figure that's emerged from the basement. Like there's really vile, heinous shit happening. And he's like, excuse me, my son has fainted for the second time
I mean, he
in
does have that
48
fainting
hours. So give me the keys now. There's obviously stuff going on here in terms of like the representation of the bourgeoisie dehumanizing the representation of the proletariat, but there's also something here of like the ways in which the proletariat status dehumanizes them. Like he cannot conceive of
Right.
the human death that has
Yeah.
happened in front of him, probably because he doesn't conceive of them as human.
Yeah.
And like his, poor son who's fainted twice is like the most pressing concern.
Well, meanwhile, this other man's daughter, like, literally has a knife in
He's
her
dying.
heart.
Like he's
Yeah,
actively dying, and he's like, "Give me the keys. We have to go. Like I need you to drive."
Yeah.
Like I think that that's just a really clear distillation of the themes of the movie in one moment.
Yeah, and then it is eventually the smell that finally sets Mr. Kim off. And does he smell? He smells the smell on Guansei, right? Isn't it that's what Mr. Kim sees from across the
Or Mr. Park.
No. Is it Mr. Park?
Mr. Park
No. Mr. Parks, like when Guansei like brushes by him, he gets
he
the smell,
smells
but
it.
I think it's Mr. Kim that sees that reaction to the like, ugh, something stinks, and that's
what
the
sets
moment
him
that,
off.
like, makes him. I mean, we don't have to beat around the bush. He murks that dude just in front of all these children. Yeah, he just kills that guy, which is a big moment, I would say. Oh, and also Guansei gets a barbecue skewer through the ribs, which is great.
Which cannot feel good.
Yeah, I you know what? It might kill you. I think it does.
Depends if it's going through the kidney,
So the birthday party ends with 4 dead bodies. We've got Moon Guang down in the basement. We've got Guansei with the barbecue skewer in his kidneys. We've got daughter Kim dead with a knife in her chest, and then finally Mr. Park, who is killed by Song Kang Ho, which causes him to flee into the night, into the day. He goes missing. He goes missing, and we have the end of the movie, right?
Yes, where he is communicating, via Morse code.
So we have a fake out where we have like a. I remember seeing it and thinking that was the end, and then there's this epilogue of the Morse code. You talk about that part because I was interrupting.
It's just that he's continuing to communicate, but we have kind of the resurgence, right, of like regardless of your endeavors to raise yourself above your status, they remain underground. And not only do they remain underground, but they find themselves in the same circumstances as, like the other proletariat family that they clashed with, and that they find themselves doing battle with.
Yeah, and kind of almost like moving into that space.
Right.
Yeah, like literally just perpetuating the cycle and seemingly learning
nothing. We learned nothing, Lebowski.
Yeah. And then happily ever after, everyone. Yeah. We love it. I love it. This movie's great. This movie's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Shit is dope. Now,
it's a good film.
It is. Now I want to do somewhat of a game, which is, I remember the first time that you and I ever hung out, or it was around the first time that we both had a mutual appreciation of one distinguished film critic who goes by the name of Armand White.
Mr. White.
He is awesome. We love him.
I just need to say this. We don't do it all the time because I feel like you got to build it up. You got to choose from the best of the best. But every couple of months, my husband will just like do a live reading of Armand White reviews for me while I'm like, folding laundry or something, and he's like doing the dishes. It's like that's our chore time. We do chores more than once every few months, but once every few months while doing chores.
You're doing better than me.
Right.
It's once a quarter.
We do a Mr. Armand White's reading hour.
He is awesome. Let's explain who this guy is. He is, first off, he writes for the National Review, which should explain enough. But he's just like he's a professional contrarian.
He is, and he's a professional contrarian. I will say I have a little bit of a sickness where I have some I'm going to use the word affection, but I don't mean it in a positive way. I have some, I'm afflicted by my affection for people on the right who consider themselves to be intellectuals.
Right.
Because I find like a unique perverse joy in cackling at their inanity.
This is my pastime, so yeah.
And Armin White will say deranged things like in his review of A Wrinkle in Time, that like Oprah Winfrey is the, you know, harbinger of like feminist fascism or something.
Okay,
He's deranged, but he's deranged in a particular way where he's read too many books and we have similar reference points, and it delights me to know and to probe into the depths of his mental depravity.
Yeah, he's awesome. Like, he is hilarious. So he writes for the National Review, which, if you don't know, is the website magazine
website.
I mean, I know it's
wow.
I know it's magazine. William F. Buckley and all that.
Yeah, if you don't know who William F. Buckley is, do yourself a favor and don't look him up. But you should know that one time he was he had a long ongoing fight with Gore Vidal. There's a really great documentary about it that I highly recommend. But
Best of Enemies.
Best of Enemies. It's called. He, would do things like call Gore Vidal a queer on stage and like say that he was gonna slap him. Gore Vidal called him a crypto-fascist, which I think is being very generous. I don't think there's anything crypto about it. I think he was pretty explicitly a fascist. But that's the legacy that we're wading into here when it comes.
Grab by that part. I'm getting a little buzz.
How about this?
Better.
That's the legacy that we're wading into when we talk about NRO, National Review Online.
Yeah.
And Armin White.
Yeah, so Armin White writes for the National Review, and all of his, I mean, I think you can distill him best down to his better than lists. Do you know about his better than lists at the end of the year?
Oh, yes.
So rather than writing like a standard top 10, he writes better than lists, which are usually like finding ways to compare movies that usually have nothing to do with each other in ways that where he can say that this one that he loves that everyone else hated is better than a movie. Like, I don't remember what the movie was, but Armin White loved Jack and Jill, the Adam Sandler movie where he plays his own twin sister. And like, I remember like that year it was like his better than, I don't remember what it was, but it was like Jack and Jill is better than, and it was like The Social Network or just some like great movie or something.
And again, this is a man who considers himself and his public identity is deeply intertwined with him conceiving of himself as erudite.
Yeah. He does.
Jack and Jill.
Yes, he loves it. He loves it. I mean, I also will like defend Jack and Jill for the Al Pacino Dunkachino scene. Have you seen that? I mean, listen, we can all say whatever we want, but Al Pacino doing a fake Dunkin' Donuts commercial where he says he's going to get the Dunkachino at Dunkin' Donuts it's great. I mean,
you caught this here first, Craig.
I got
Jack
what?
and Jill apologist.
Yeah, just the Dunkachino stuff. Everything else could go. So anyways, we all should also mention that he got kicked out of the New York Film Critics Association or Society for basically just heckling people. I think it was the one that got him kicked out was, I think he heckled Steve McQueen while he was accepting an award for 12 Years a Slave or something like that. But yeah, Armin White's just a nut job and we love him. But the game that I want to play is, did Armin White like this movie? It's a short game, but then we can go into it a little bit.
So I think that the easiest and most tempting answer is to say no because of, the leftist not even implications, right? I mean, Bong Joon Ho has been pretty explicit about it being a critique of capitalism. But I feel like the filmmaking, which Armin White does sometimes actually respect.
Yeah, he is like cinematically literate. Like, he can
Oh,
discuss like
yes.
filmmaking and stylistic stuff. It's which I think more proves that he's just a contrarian who like is going to take the opposite opinion of everything. But
Yeah, he's neocon pilled. Which is just called being a neocon. So I'm going to say yes, but he made the argument on the basis of stylistics and not, or which we might call aesthetics, is what I mean, and not on the basis of like actual content.
Okay. So before I reveal the answer and his hilarious headline for his review, can I just say that when I went to find his review on the National Review, there was a hilarious ad that popped up. It was an ad for a TeePublic t-shirt that was on the National Review site. Like, the whole banner ad was just a t-shirt on TeePublic that said, "I'm fat, but I identify as trans slender." Which I was like, oh my God. I just like...
Someone's making $18.99 off of that right now as we speak.
And like, I literally have only... The last time I went to the National Review was to read Armin White, probably, and it was years ago. And I just thought it was so, like, how is it that they're always talking about this and they only still have the one thing to say, which is I identify as a blah, 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 or whatever.
Yeah, they're so humans. I think that's part of why I find like Armin White and like other people kind of in that vein, like Kevin Williamson before he got ejected from the Atlantic, and like dudes like that who are like, we're the intellectual, is why I get them stuck in my craw, is because like at least they're stupid and vile and evil, but like they're more clever than that.
Yeah.
Like
slightly
they're making
more.
some attempt to advance their ideology, which is evil and I disagree with, but it's like, how do you argue with a fucking stupid person versus like, no, I can like laugh at Armin White and argue with the things that he's saying. I can't argue with that t-shirt. Slender.
Yeah, he would agree with the t-shirt, but he would never wear it.
Right.
Yeah. He's the classier bigot.
Yeah. They're still, to the gulag, all of them, but I'm just...
All right, do you want what his headline was for this review?
Yes.
Antifa comedy for the cancel culture era. He did not like Parasite.
Okay.
Just a little bit of it because it's really funny. He says, Bong Joon Ho is an unfunny extremist. In Parasite, he annihilates the concept of the nuclear family by setting a brood of lower-class con artists against an upper-class family unit.
Wait, let's interrogate that a little. What about the nuclear family is being fractured?
These families are very close.
They retain, like, in fact, again, that denouement moment we were talking about is the family coalescing, like, is the bourgeois family coalescing around their own, regardless of whatever is like interceding or is surrounding it. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, he
Dummy.
is talking about nothing. He also calls Bong Joon Ho a political con artist. He pits a family of grifters in opposition to elites, as though clarifying the easily exploited social conflicts frequently repeated in the media. He's great. Like, he's so...
As if explaining. No, that's what he's doing, my dude. He is exploring it. Like, you may disagree with the outcome or the interpretation, but
he's saying a truism as a critique of, like, he is trying to explore. I was like, well,
he's making a statement that he's pretending is an argument.
Right. Like, and there was another hilarious part of this that I wanted to read, and I can't find what the line is.
Real bozo shit.
It was he's gonna so Armin White decides to throw in a few other social commentary movies that are not getting it done. This one's a little bit longer, but it is worth it. By doubling social decay with family dysfunction, Bong, and he's now talking about Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes, my king.
Which The Killing of a Sacred Deer came out at the same time, so he is. That
is much more about the destruction of the nuclear family than Parasite is.
He says Bong copies the same pitiless, poisonous view of human relations as in The Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite, he says. So anyways, he's comparing Bong and Lanthimos.
Listen, you can't. I draw the line at The Favorite.
They both lead a decadent wait, fuck, where am I? Oh, millennial nihilism is what he calls both of them, which I think
I'm
is
sorry.
hilarious.
Both of those men are like in their
Gen X.
mid-40s.
100% Gen X. And then he says, because
Maybe older, honestly.
he says, ugly sarcasm in these international co-productions matches the pessimism of such American features as Jordan Peele's Get Out and Us. All these movies welcome apocalypse, and that's supposed to be clever, which I think that's where he's not getting it, is that, like, if there is any, like, pessimism that's being embraced, it's not welcoming it. It's like you're just making like Parasite. I don't think anyone's welcoming.
Yeah,
the
I don't.
destruction. It's just, if anything, like some of them are just aware and like matter of fact about it.
There's also difference between bleak tragedy and nihilism. Like,
yeah.
mapping the contours of people's experiences of horror is not inherently nihilistic.
Right.
And in fact, I would say that the movie ends, I mean, it's bleak because we see the story, the cycle beginning kind of back where it began,
Sure,
or maybe
yeah.
even a worse place, like you said, the kind of changing places with the other family. But like, there is something hopeful in him maintaining communication, not giving up hope. He is not dead, right? He is persisting. Like, you're stupid, man.
He is very stupid.
The Favorite is also not a nihilist. I love that movie. I love Yorgos Lanthimos. He's one of my favorite directors,
Yeah,
and I
that dude's
fucking love
creep.
The Favorite.
I have not seen The Favorite yet. I know. I think
Oh
that
my
might be,
god.
that might be his only one I haven't seen.
Oh my god. I can't wait to see his new movie.
What is his new one?
I think it comes out next year. It's Emma Stone stars in it again, and it's like about it's based on a novel that I don't remember the name of, but it's like a woman gets a baby's brain transplanted in her or something like equally psychotic.
It sounds like a Carl Pilkington movie based on a Carl Pilkington idea. Did you ever listen to Ricky Gervais's whole podcast?
No, I did not.
We don't need to talk about Ricky Gervais. He's a nightmare. But he had a beautiful moron on his podcast named Carl Pilkington who would come up with an idea like putting a baby's brain in a man or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's based on like a postmodern novel, but
That sounds awesome.
The Favorite is, I would also say, not nihilistic. Again, it's very bleak and dark, but like it's about people like scrounging for love in an environment that is not facilitative.
Yeah, there's like I think that all those filmmakers that he mentioned and derisively, like they're all like, they're too humanist to be like, they're just too like, I don't know, they're too sensitive to be like, to have the accusation that they're nihilists. Like there's too much like humanity to their work to say that they're just like,
it's not Haneke. That's what I need to know.
I do like that guy.
I feel very back and forth on him. I love The Piano Teacher is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen. I would say that is a nihilistic movie, but it just like
all of his,
hits me really hard, like square in the chest. But yeah, I wonder what he thinks. Probably nothing good. He doesn't think anything good about Haneke. But the movie,
no, definitely not. He's a reactionary nut job. So like anything that's like designed to provoke like dum-dums is gonna work.
Haneke's like Austrian, I think. I don't see him like liking.
Like who hates Americans already. So like, what are you gonna? Armin. There's nothing like. There's no. I feel like Armin White won't even acknowledge that Haneke exists because there's nothing to engage with for his audience. Like,
it also just like his movies don't wide release in America. I mean,
right,
he does reviews of things that aren't wide release, but it's way less frequent. Also, the name of the Lanthimos film that's coming out next year is called Poor Things.
Poor Things.
Here's the premise. Upon drowning herself to escape her abusive husband, a woman has her brain replaced with the brain of her unborn child with the help of her father.
Oh, hell yeah.
Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe is her father. Rami Youssef is in it. Mark Ruffalo, Gerard Carmichael,
Holy
Christopher
hell.
Abbott, Margaret Qualley, and Catherine Hunter.
Damn.
Okay, that's gonna be some shit, and I will be there.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is enough for me. I love Willem Dafoe. He's the best. There was one other thing in his review that I thought was funny, and I wanted to pull it up. It is Oh, which is, let me see if he mentions it elsewhere, but he has a funny sentence that, like, yeah, it's just in the, like, literally the final paragraph of his review, which is, he says, Jun Bong Ho repeats the same self-pleasing psychosis as in Call Me By Your Name. When
What?
the grifter Kim father advises his son, live with no plan, whether it's killing someone or betraying your country, nothing matters. Parasite's award-winning nihilism proves why Chow is a filmmaker for... Okay, he was talking about something else. But I just love that he is like, let me also throw in this movie that other right-wing reactionaries
I was going to say
with.
that you just hate it because it involves gay stuff.
Yeah. We're just like, because literally he does not mention Call Me By Your Name in the rest of the review. It's just in the final paragraph where he's like, this is also shit like that other movie that we all hated.
You know, as we land this plane.
As we come in for smooth docking.
And we hope that the wheels work and we don't crash into the ground.
So
you know, you have any final... It's so metaphorical. Do you have any final thoughts or things you want to leave people with aside from listen? I don't know if you can subscribe to this by the time it comes out, but if you can, do that.
Yeah, I think you should be able to. I gotta
like and subscribe.
All the behind.
We're learning.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, no, I love this movie. This movie's dope. This movie's awesome. If you don't like this movie, then I don't like you. No, I'm just kidding. Unless you're Armin White.
Yeah.
And then I do both like you and
then enthusiastically
don't like you.
fuck you.
Yeah. But yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's just one last thing I wanted to say, which is one of the things I really, really like about this movie is that it demonstrates that individual action is not sufficient for the proletariat to overcome the bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, we talked about this a little with, you know, families in the basements warring with each other and that, like, the alienation from other workers. But I think, you know, the violent acts that take place, I don't think that the film is necessarily editorializing and saying that, like, there is no violence that would be appropriate or ever suitable in this circumstance, but simply that it's inefficient and was not achieving the goal because all things remained as they were when there's not collective power that's built.
Yeah, and we see a lot of collateral damage in the, like, those violent, like, confrontational moments or whatever.
Right. Nobody's winning. The working people aren't winning when we battle with each other.
Yeah. I think that's a great spot to end it. This was fun.
Whoa!
And we'll, that sounded like, when you did that, it sounded like I had it on, like, an auto-tune. I hope that I haven't messed up a setting and you've been sounding like a robot this whole time. But anyways, this is fun. This is great. We'll do another one. See you soon.
See you soon.
Go, 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 go.